Howdy, folks. Somebody give us a sound check and a video check.
Hey, David.
Hi, David.
I even have a pointer tonight. I got
That's
stuff.
bizarre. You're not supposed to have a pointer, but
Why not? Oh my God, I'm supposed to have a pointer.
I don't know. You look more like a setter at the moment.
Yeah, well, this is my heating element winding tool too. So
So, in other words, it's an official piece of lab equipment. Yeah.
it's both a pointer and an audio visual aid.
Yeah. It's an official piece of lab equipment. We're going to be discussing lab equipment again.
Is it lab equipment or is this tool? I think it's a tool.
Well, you can debate that later.
Okay, so we've had a busy week. While we give some time for other people to show up. Hey, Dave. Hey, Brian. By the way, Dave there, here's a bunch of stuff this week that
Thank you, Dave.
was really quite a
And
lot
hi,
of useful
Brian.
stuff. By the way, Eva's better, but that night, Dave, I had to take her to the hospital.
Yeah, I had to go to the ER.
Yeah, she's feeling better, but she's not completely over things yet. But yeah, she had a little bit of a setback there, and about 10 o'clock, I told, because when we got home about 5 o'clock, she went right to the couch. Well, she went to the bathroom first, I'm sure, and went right to the couch, laid down, didn't wake up for 5 hours. There was a couple times I kind of roused her a little bit. I started taking her temperature, and she'd rouse enough to open her mouth, and I could stick the thermometer
Hi, John.
in. And at about 9:45, she was running 99.5. At 10:30, she was running 99.8, and she was really, really draggy. And so I said, I think we ought to go to the hospital. And she was like, well, maybe we should wait a little longer. I said, look, if we wait much longer, I have a feeling I'm going to have to call an ambulance to get you to the hospital. So.
When she was exaggerating, he could have gotten me into the van.
I can't carry you. You know.
Thank you for telling the whole world I'm fat. I'm aware of this.
It doesn't matter. I couldn't carry what I used to carry when I was a youngster. I used to be able to pick up 150 pounds. Now I can't even pick up 100. So you could be very svelte and still exceed my carrying capacity. But anyhow, so we went to the hospital and we were there till 4 in the morning. They were very thorough. They did every test I could think of and some I don't even know of. They found a significant problem. That's the only thing they found. I don't see how they could have missed anything with everything. They even gave her a CT scan and stuff. So I was very pleased with how thorough they were. They gave her some antibiotics. We came home. Next 24 hours, she was still really draggy. Then the next day, she started perking up a little bit in the afternoon. By the day after, she was back to her normal self in terms of appearance. She says she's still not completely good. I can't read all those things there without sticking my finger in the camera.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. Hi, John. David says I'm in there. Yeah, I'm in everybody's thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Anyhow, so that's what it was with Eva. I, on the other hand, because I had kidney issues detected 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. Anyhow, so I changed a lot of things I was doing, and it seemed to help. And then 2 days ago, man, I was feeling more energy than I have in a long time. What?
Found out bleach really does make silver chloride from x-rays. It's very white, and after a week it will be black if it's left out in the light.
Well, that's another
Outside.
Well, it makes some, but
Maybe his x-rays are older or a different kind.
it makes some.
He'll be right back, guys.
I'm getting another audio visual aid. So anyhow, here is the residue from 1.9 kilograms.
And Dave says we are very welcome. All the stuff is so cool. I've been feeling too cruddy to appreciate it, but thank you.
Yeah, she wasn't, I don't even think she looked at it when we got home.
I slept for 2 solid days.
I know. So anyhow, this is the residue, and I think that's predominantly silver. Now, I have another beaker.
Brian said, yeah, gray.
Let's see if we can do this, because I cannot tip it too much. But you can see that's pretty white on top. It's kind of gray on the bottom. It looks like initially...
Brian says if you wet this one, it'll, the other one, not that. If you wet this one, it'll turn black.
Might.
Shane says, yepper, Brian.
It's a dark gray there. A little bit of silver chloride on top, I believe. And this was a 200-gram sample. That's the rest there. And since I didn't have a furnace running, I couldn't really do much past that point. But I'm going to save that one for testing that chloride conversion method. And hello, Shaggy. So that's why I was focusing on the kiln. Now today and yesterday, I was testing the kiln. And what I'd done, I'm pretty sure I posted the video of the rebuild, but I had to wait for it to dry and then go after that.
Sherry says, glad I'm feeling better. She was worried.
Yeah, Sherry did a very good job.
Brian wants to know how many pounds of film we went through. I don't think he weighed it.
This one
yet.
here is 2 kilograms. Minus a tenth of a kilogram is in that other beaker there. But anyhow, so posted a video where I tore apart the kiln and relined it, put in a new element, and some things didn't go exactly as planned. Plus, I've got a better plan for the next time.
Joe Rouse says, I've had those tests before and don't think I want to know. With me, even after the exponential, I still didn't understand.
Okay. Anyhow, this is a piece of that Simmons store fire brick. This is 1.25 inches. Now I bought the 1.25 inches because I wanted to keep the dimension. It's a very small kiln, so if I take too much up, I can't get the crucible in it. And so I bought the 1 1/8 inches. I got like a 12-pack for $65. And it was from Simmons store, but when I went there and then looked at the packages, then it said Amazon, so I went to Amazon and saved about 10 or 15 bucks by doing it through Amazon. Anyhow, this is insulating fire brick. It's not the best insulator, I'm sure, but it's not bad. And it's rigid. You know, you can carve it, drill it, do things like that to it, which is far superior than that fibrous stuff they have in the kiln from the factory. There are some negatives. When they assemble the kiln, they do some of the assembly with screws, and those will This does not accept a screw very well, so you have
Ryan
to.
says you can now make 4 more kilns.
Well, not quite, but you have to notch or drill holes or something in these so that they can fit over the screws. Depends on whether you can set the brick on the screw or whether you have to slide it onto the screw, depending on everything. However, because it was 1.25" block, there was some problems. And I assumed that things were going to work out not perfectly, but I didn't realize how close to perfectly they did work out. If you can switch to the...
John says he watched the rebuild vid and he thinks it turned out pretty sweet. There you go.
I can do a sweeter one. This is the top view of the way I rebuilt it. This is one brick like this, okay, and less than a brick high on the sides and the back. And on the top, there's one brick across the top and then another little strip, because it turns out that 1 1/8" brick is 1/4 inch too short right there. If it was 1 1/4", this brick would fit perfectly with like these there. So, if I had bought 4 1.5" bricks for the walls, I would only needed 2 1.25" bricks for the top and the bottom. Now I checked with my little catch tray in there to protect the bottom of the kiln. Getting a crucible in there with 1.5" top and bottom would be really tough. So, the ideal situation, in my opinion, you get 4 1.25" bricks for the walls standing vertically. You'll need 2 to cover the back wall. Put in the back wall first. Now all you got to do is worry about this part of the chamber. You have the top. You run the walls all the way down to the bottom. From under the top, that supports them just like a timber set. You know, it's kind of like that, just like a timber set. And then the bottom would be in one piece. Now, by doing this, you've got a total of 6 bricks, whereas I used about a total of 8 or more. And I had these little strips, 1, 2, 3, 4 little strips. There was one on the bottom here too. So you wound up with a bunch of these little dinky things that kind of suck. This would be much more efficient, much easier to do.
AK Shaggy says drill out a slot for the cup to fit in.
The crucible, we have a catch tray. Let me go get it real quick, because inevitably you have problems.
He'll be right back, guys.
This is the catch tray, and it's made out of a castable refractory. I made a mold for them and stuff. It slides in the bottom of the kiln, and it will catch if you have a minor boil over in your crucible, which you do.
If you want to be on camera again, tell me. I'll switch it
No,
back.
no, that's fine. Looking at that. What do we got? Anything there that I need to address?
No.
Okay. So anyhow, this is really important. Saves a lot of damage, but it takes up vertical space. Between that and the 2 extra 1/4 inches, trying to get that crucible in there would be real fun. So that's why I think that it's best to go with 1.25" top and bottom, 1.5" on the walls. that also allows you, I was trying to minimize the gap. You have, let's say here's the outside wall, and here's your, well, let me do it this way. This is your outside wall. This is your brick. That's cutting a groove in them like that to put the heating element. Because I was trying to minimize this amount of distance here so that I don't get too close to the wall and lose insulating and stuff, this was only 3/8 of an inch deep. The element's about 5/8 of an inch outside diameter. By going to a thicker brick, you can make it deeper and it'll hold the element better. These grooves are just not quite holding the elements the way I want. So, for those reasons, I would recommend.
Jeff Bybee says, would a top-loading kiln have too many downsides to get simple all-around heating element?
The top-loading kiln has simplicity. It's not as easy to work with. You know, it's on the floor instead of on a shelf where you can get to it a little better. Because it has the element, it doesn't have certain, I mean, they can be much bigger without too much trouble. Although so could this. This is the tabletop kiln is kind of SOP. I mean, it's a standard piece of equipment. Now, there is a new kiln out there made by Vibor. Where is it here? Which is about half the price of a tabletop. I have not used one. I have not seen one. So I have no opinion, but at half the price, it's something that if I was going to buy a new one, I would definitely look at.
This old mine with Lars is here. Hello, Lars.
Hey, Lars. Now, the other thing that comes in handy is with a spool of wire and a dowel. See those little screws there? That's to start the grip the wire while you start turning it. You put it in a low-speed drill and start winding it, and you can wind your own heating elements. That's really cheap compared to buying them. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but as I recall, we were figuring we were making them for $3 or $4 each. Do you recall? Sounds about right.
Well, basically, they were charging over $50 for a single element.
Yeah, it was about $50 for an element with this is a 5-pound spool of Canthal, and we still have quite a bit left after going through 4 or 5 elements. The first element I made for this kiln rebuild here, it had issues. I did some.
Brian says when you run, watch that bottom plat over the fan and make sure it does not get hot enough to melt that plastic fan.
I'm not sure what happened just now, but towards the end of the run, the fan itself stopped. I don't know why. I think it's pretty stupid. If you'll listen to me, guys, over at Tabletop, it's stupid to put a fan in so that it sucks in air from the outside when the outside is underneath a frickin' kiln. You've got a piece of metal right above you that's running like 400 degrees. Why don't you have the fan running the other direction and have a few holes in the side of your electronics box so it sucks in cold air and then blows it to cool the bottom of the kiln too? Just a thought.
Brian says, yes.
Yeah. So anyhow.
Yeah, for all I know, he's already fried my fan. I have no idea.
They're pretty cheap. We can find them pretty easily, I'm sure.
Now, my question is, could we replace that meltable plastic fan with a metal fan of the same size that would not melt?
Probably not. Not for any reasonable price. Yeah, I'm sure you could get like a dozen. It's a standard cheap-ass cools electronics, kind of like the things underneath there. type fan. It's a very, very
Laura
standard.
says they want to keep the CB warm.
The CB?
I'm assuming the computer, something to do with computers. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't have to be that hot, I would think. But anyhow, as it may, mandrel, wire, cheap heating elements, such that, as I say, when I put it all together, this is where I need the pointer here. Can they see the top line of stuff, little one?
Yeah.
Okay. I used 20 feet
Circuit
of
board.
used 20 feet of wire on the first element because that was what I assumed I needed. I'm not sure exactly why that was too much. Could be because at the ranch we're running off a generator here. We got electrical wiring and stuff that may have more voltage drop. Don't know. All I know was that with 20 feet of wire wound up into a heating element, it was pulling 10.8 amps, and which gave it about 1273 watts. It was 117 volts, which only gave us,
Jean-Francois, hello.
you know,
David says improving the mousetrap takes an engineer.
yeah. We only got up to 1850 degrees, and then it stabilized. It would not go up any higher. So I played around, did some testing, tried basically shorting some coils together to make effectively a shorter heating element stuff. Came up with my best guess and went to an 18-foot heating element, which I made brand new, because the other one I kind of messed up a bit.
Kenneth Durseller's here. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Hello, Kenneth.
But anyhow, one thing that was interesting at this point here, when I had the 18-foot element in, was that when I was doing some of the testing, well, actually the 20-foot element, when I was doing some of the testing and this and that and the other, I kind of screwed it up a bit. And so it actually slumped at one point, and the little kilowatt meter that I had started beeping a little bit. It was a very gentle beep. It was hard for me to figure out exactly where it was coming from. Then it's coming from that meter, and I looked at it, and it was running 15.5 amps because one element had slumped down and touched the other element, which had short-circuited about 25% of the total wire length. And it was running at 15.5 amps. When I looked, it was at 1830 degrees and going up about 1 degree per second. It's like, okay, so a shorter heating element will work to get me the heat I need. The problem was, how short? If it's too short, you can't use it. If it's too long, it's not going to work too well. So I started with 18 feet. That started pulling 11.3 amps, 1,322 watts, but it only maxed out at about 1,860 degrees. Okay, little improvement, but not much. So I shortened it by taking the end of the upper element and literally unwrapping the coils for a foot of wire.
Jean-Francois says, did you measure the voltage? Don't assume your true line voltage is 117 volts. Put a voltmeter at the outlet where your furnace is plugged in.
Actually, yes, I did. That kilowatt meter turned to be very, very handy because I did exactly that. Not only is the outlet where I was using, not where I'm going to be plugging in the furnace, because that furnace, when it's in use, at times it's going to be making unpleasant things like vaporized lead. Now, without having a really good ventilation hood in the house, that's a bad thing. So I'm planning on using it outside. And so
Jean-Francois says, okay.
I'm going to need an extension cord too, so I actually had the extension cord plugged into the outlet and then plugged the kilowatt meter into the extension cord and then plug the furnace into the kilowatt meter. I like that little kilowatt meter. Again, months and months, well, actually probably about a year ago, somebody here mentioned it. Might have been John, I'm not sure. But the damn thing is really, really handy for stuff like this. So up here it was 117 volts. It was 121 volts with no load on it. When I took this element and reduced it to 17 feet, it was pulling 114 volts when the load was on and 12.19 amps, which gives it almost exactly 1400 watts. That gave me the temperature I needed. That little asterisk means it was being regulated. It was not stabilized at that temperature. It was being regulated at that temperature.
Impedance a factor?
I have no freaking clue. Seems unlikely, but I don't know enough.
Who knows?
Impedance, I believe, has to do with magnetic
Could
fields
it
and
be?
stuff.
Yes, it could.
So I have no clue. But anyhow, so I'm going to redo that video I put up to input all this information, and especially with this 17 feet for the heating element and the changing of the brick layout. I think this is a much better design. You can put deeper grooves, which are going to hold that heating element much better. So, say, if you
David B has got 3 question marks there. Let's get specific here.
yeah. So,
What are we questions?
if you got a tabletop kiln and it needs a rebuild, 17 feet of 18 gauge Camphor wire, somewhere here, yeah, 17 feet of 18 gauge Camphor wire, use 1.25 inch bricks, insulating
Kodak
fabric.
says he gonna blame being late on St. Patty's Day. Hey, y'all.
Hey,
Well, if corned beef had not been way too expensive, I'd be having a good St. Patrick's Day.
but anyhow, so I'm going to redo that video. I'm going to take down the old video. Okay? I've learned too much stuff. I need to change the plan.
David says he's thinking he's in trouble.
Okay, yep. So that's the dealio. So don't worry too much about this. It will be on another video I'll put up this week. Okay? But if you've got a tabletop kiln, this is an improvement to the factory for a rebuild. What do we got there? Jean-Francois said something.
Jean-Francois says, so you have 121 minus 114 equals 7 volts times 15.5 amps equals 108 watt loss in the wiring, presumably from the panel. Okay, you're doing weird math things.
Well,
Jean-Francois is doing weird math things.
between the panel to the outlet to the 50 foot of 10 gauge cord, yeah, it's got a significant voltage drop, and that may be why I needed to cut the length of this element compared to what we used to use, because out there at the mill we were like 50 feet from a generator, and if the generator was pushing it good, it might not have been a problem. Let's see. So that definitely is an improvement. Yeah, Dave gave me a lot of Qpels and some wear plates from my RC46. Dave's got
Douglas Cole says, caution, I doubt a home outlet has enough amps without popping the breaker or melting your wiring, so be careful.
12.19 amps. Okay.
It's really not that many amps.
Let's say this is basically, it's pulling 1400 watts. It's basically about like a regular plug-in room heater, which is 1500 watts.
We use lead. I do not use bismuth. Bismuth can really screw up your silver results in an assay. I use lead.
Oh, and Dave, if you see any bone ash there that they got laying around, we can use some of that too.
Lars says plus the voltage drop on the relay or the SCR. And Brian, I use lead as a collector metal.
Yeah.
I do not use silver as a collector metal. All of my silver that I keep is specifically for in-court or assay purposes. It is not anything else.
I'm sure there's some voltage drop on the relay. There's also some quick connects where the element hooks into the electronics box. So there's all kinds of potential issues where you could get a little bit of variability in the resistance. Okay. So that's the data I got. And if you were running this thing closer to a robust power supply, you might be fine with the 20-foot wire. Okay. Anyhow, that seems to work pretty. Also, these walls being an extra 1/4 inch thick will also give you more insulation, which can't possibly hurt. The outside of this thing gets pretty darn hot when it's operating. It always has. By the way, these tabletop kilns, the door, as it comes from the factory, is lined with a refractory fiber mat. It's good to put a rigidizer on that.
Jean-Francois points out Costco's 10-ounce Royal Canadian Mint bars are still priced $60 to $80 Canadian below Kitco. Lucky you. Though a lot of my friends who buy gold and silver from Costco have said that here recently with their Costco with the rebates that you get back at the end of the year and credit card rebates, etc., they've been getting their gold and silver basically at spot at Costco here in the U.S. So this is a good thing. If we had any money, I'd be buying silver right now.
If you don't have a kiln and you want to buy a small kiln, I would definitely look at this Vevor kiln here, because it's like $350 versus the tabletop, which is like $650, something like that. I also suspect the Vevor, which is Chinese, is probably a lot more available in places like Australia, you know. So that's definitely something to check out. The tabletop is not designed for the brutal service that we put it through.
Yeah. The 2% discount with the premium thing, Jean-Francois. That really helps when you're buying gold and silver over at Costco.
So
I wish, personally, that they would have the gold and silver available in the fucking jewelry case at the freaking Costco in my freaking town. I don't want to buy it online and have it delivered. I want it there. It should be there. It belongs there.
okay. So I gotta say, that's my opinion. The people at Tabletop were nice to work with. They were easy to, when I needed spare parts or whatever. Prices for parts are not cheap compared to alternatives you can get on the internet once you know what the part you need, like the switch. I think I've got an extra relay from them.
You did.
I don't think I bought that off of the internet, but I'm sure I could get it cheaper there. But anyhow, so Tabletop's not a bad brand. It's not really designed as an assay furnace or the kind of atmospheres, corrosive atmospheres and brutal use that we put it through.
And that is the one point that I would make right now. In that regard, I think that makes Tabletop worth the price, because anything else out there, it would have been trashed and unable to even be fixed by now. The fact we can still fix this thing at all is quite impressive.
Well, I don't know. The Vevor might be better. I don't know. I've never had a chance to really look at it.
I'm putting you back on the screen for the time being.
But anyhow, so that's kind of my thing. I say, if you got a Tabletop, it can definitely be rebuilt to better than original equipment without too much worker spent. The bricks and what else did I buy? Oh, the caulking, the fireplace caulk, cost me less than $100. You figure $3 a heating element, it gets pretty cheap. The fireplace caulk I got from Amazon, it was $5 a tube. It comes out gray, but once you cook it, it turns white. So that's cool. What?
Jean Francois says, have you seen our despot Carney wanting to bring Kazakhstan into the European Union and will have to have carbon pricing? My local Costco scores 10-ounce bars, 10-ounce Chucky 3 coins, 1 ounce and 25 maples. Oh, wow. I would love to get a tube of maples. Oh, that would be so cool. As long as they were older maples.
Without Chucky
No
3.
Chuck number 3 in this house. Vibor is a large Chinese manufacturer. This is Lars.
Yeah.
That makes pretty decent stuff, easily available in the U.S. I have a 5 kilowatt Vibor diesel heater in his trailer.
Yeah. Say, Vibor, I think, is fairly available both places, but I don't think tabletop is that available in like Indonesia or Australia, but I bet you Vibor is. That's why I say it's not that Vibor is less available, it's that tabletop is probably less available in the Asian area. Okay. So let's see. No, friends lost it. But anyhow, so you say if you're going to buy something small like that, I definitely look at the Vibor. Okay. I doubt that you can do much bigger of a kiln at 110 volts. You just don't have the wattage available. This right here is working damn hard to heat this up to the melting point of gold, which is 1980. Okay?
It's also a crime here, Jean-Francois, to melt coinage.
Yeah. But this is about as big as you can get with 110 volt.
But still stick to buying bullion, yes.
Okay.
Well, personally, I mean, I do not want anything with check number 3 on it, you know.
Well, coinage is nice because it's really fungible. But this kiln should be running in a day or two and, test it out. I've been testing it inside here because it's real easy and it's still winter, so we can use the heat. But when I start putting it actually into use, like to smelt this stuff, I'm going to need to put it outside because the fumes are a little hazardous.
I wouldn't melt Kazakhstani kopecks. I would not melt Canadian coinage. Well, unless I accidentally got stuck with some with check number 3 on it, and then I might do some experimentation. Brian says his tabletop is 2 layers of 1/2-inch insulation keyed around the corners.
Sounds about right.
And Lars says if you run it off 220, you can size by 30%.
Well, I'm sure you could do some interesting stuff with 220. But with 220, I go for the increased volume that would be available. With 220, you can heat more volume, so I'd go with a bigger kiln. Dan said that he's gonna bring us a used Vasella sometime in a couple of months here when he's coming through town, and he's got a spare one, and so he'll give us.
Yeah, Jeff, he means upsize it by 30%. So make it 30% larger if you can go to 20 volts, which we can't.
Well, you could put 210 volt elements in there. If you were to go with throw the full 220 at the element, I'm not sure what length and everything you'd need. With this, you could just do 2 of these elements and split, one leg to one hot leg to one hot leg to the other, and ground them both to the neutral. And that would work, I am pretty sure. And Another thing that wouldn't hurt, if you found one that has a thicker door. The tabletop has about a 1-inch thick door with a fiber bat type insulation, and that door gets pretty darn hot. But it's been, again, an interesting educational experience.
David says, and Laura says, wind yourself a 3-phase element, then you can connect it directly to the grid.
Well, if you had 3-phase available, someone like Lauren, he's right up next to the power lines. He can go 3-phase. I think Jimmy could also go 3-phase if he wanted to without too much trouble, because he's up next to some power lines. But I know it's a much more efficient way to get power if you're set up for it. Laura says something there.
Laura says, wind yourself a 3-phase element.
Oh, okay.
Brian says, I just ordered 20 plastic clips so I can hang full x-ray sheets in a 5-gallon Homer bucket with 100% of the film and the bleach, 5 to 8 sheets at a time. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. And you're going to find out your bleach consumption. Let me find my clipboard here. Okay, I was using 75 milliliters of bleach actually consumed for each 200 grams of film I processed. So 75 divided 200. So 0.375 cc's per gram, or 375 mils per kilogram. Okay? And that is actual consumption. What I did was I had kind of reduced the bleach to ineffectiveness, and then I would add 50 mils of bleach and see if it got effective again. Didn't do too well. So then the next batch I added 100 mils of bleach, and that seemed to work pretty good. And then I did like 3 or 4 batches in a row at 75 mils of bleach. Now this is 7.5% sodium hypochlorite.
Brian says he'll be making homemade strong bleach.
Okay. So just for your numbers, I was using 7.5% bleach concentrate, and I was burning up 75 milliliters, burning them up, for every 200 grams of film. So that'll give you an idea what your consumption's going to be. Jean-Francois, just, that's something?
Derate a little for increased length of door gap. They're having a side conversation about upsizing kilns.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems is the hotter you run the elements, the more efficient it is, but the more amperage you increase, which can be a problem real quick. When you get up to this, yeah, there's a reason it was beeping at me. But the other thing is, as he says, the durability. It's another reason we use the Kanthal wire instead of nichrome. It's got a little better durability, and I think it does better in a more corrosive atmosphere, which smelting and assaying is a pretty corrosive atmosphere. Okay. You rate a little for increased length of door gap. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, I'll take you back up to the top of that. Kodak says measure electric in watts. Don't worry about the voltage or amperage. The watts are the same. Volts and amperage are variable. Jean-Francois says back of the envelope computation here. Figure out the available power on a 220 volt outlet and to know how much you can size the 220 furnace. Make sure to keep the same wattage per unit of wall surface and derate a little for increased length of door gap.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I would think a normal 220 volt circuit would be 30 amps minimum sort of thing. They just, like a dryer outlet. So 30 amp 220, I think would be pretty standard for a 220 outlet.
And Jean-Francois, he didn't miss it. I was not reading them to him as they are coming out, because y'all were pretty much having a side conversation while he was talking about something entirely unrelated with bleach and stuff while addressing Brian. So we were going to get back to your electric things.
Okay.
All y'all are having 2 or 3 different conversations going on here.
2. But anyhow, so Brian, that's my observations on how much bleach it takes to process so much film. And then this is actually starting to dry up now. Once it's thoroughly dry, then I can weigh it. Kind of hard to tell. The glass beakers are heavy enough that it's kind of hard to tell how much it weighs, but another day or so it should be dry enough that I can weigh it. So anyhow,
Thank you, David.
that's the dealio here.
I don't want him sticking his big face in the middle of the camera 3 inches away from it trying to read the screen all the time.
Yeah. So that handles the kiln. Again, I will be updating the video and I will remove the old one. It's all, I don't know, it's all in the editing program, so all I need to do is add stuff to it and then change the number on it. And it will have all this information here.
Cool info. When you smelt it, I think you'll get about 30%. Will you see
Well, I
that?
would hope not. I'd hope I get about 80 or 90%.
That is the reason we did not want to go with silver chloride in the first place, because silver chloride, like gold chloride, like all of the chloride metals, is volatile in heat.
Yeah.
Remember that wonderful test, that wonderful study that they did, the Bureau of Mines, that he has talked about before, about volatilization of gold? How they made a gold chloride ore, and as soon as iron was present anywhere, all the gold went poof. I suspect the same thing happens with silver chloride.
It was iron pyrite.
Yeah, it was iron pyrite.
And it went from 5% to 95% loss.
But the thing is, I noticed, I believe, though I have not had a chance to prove it, I believe that the same thing happens with silver chloride just on its own. Because when I first was making silver chloride to get my silver back, I was using distilled water and using extreme care, and I still had 30% losses. That's why I do not make silver chloride. And Lars says, do you need some liner for the kiln door? We kept the old liner.
Yeah, it's doing okay. I think we replaced it once, and then we put rigidizer on it to keep it there.
And Brian says it's like cotton candy. 1 gallon of cotton candy equals 1 spoonful of sugar. Exactly.
Yeah, but this stuff is more like powdered silver, I believe. We'll see what happens. I'm anxious to use that damn kiln, but first it has to work. I got a bunch of stuff to play with. And a lot of cupels to play with now, thanks to Dave. And some crucibles to play with, thanks to Dave. I appreciate that. Oh, and my thought was, in the bottom of the kiln, once you put the extra base plate we put in there, catch plate, it wouldn't hurt to seal the edges around it with just a little berm of bone ash between it and the walls, so you build a little higher, so it really will tend to protect things. The other thing is, this design here, this whole bottom of the kiln itself is one piece, and it's easy to replace. So piece of cake. Okay? So, as I say, that's what we're at. I'm working on the X-ray film. I'm working on the furnace. We got silver to smelt. We got gold to smelt from our last stuff. And when next time we go to Butte and see Jeff, he's working on, he got some concentrates that he made from a mine he's working on, and then he used the Eco Goldex and then went to direct electrowinning out a solution, and he got some stuff that looks like gold.
Brian says he did get fair results when he direct smelted silver chloride. Well, as I said, I keep very, very careful track of shit, and I had consistent losses when I was dealing with smelting silver chloride. Now, Jean-Francois says Ammon mentions silver volatilization tendencies, but as far as I know, I don't remember reading about gold chloride volatilization, neither in Ammon nor in Hoke. Well, this was not an Ammon or in Hoke. It was an actual series of tests that was conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Mines, where they created
an artificial
gold ore
from silica sand and
gold chloride. And then when they added iron pyrite, they discovered there was all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, I did in fact use a good borax cover because I always do that as well.
Okay. But yeah, that was done by the U.S. Bureau of Mines, I'm pretty sure. And they found that they got, when they used silver chloride in the silica sand and the standard fluxing and stuff, they got about a 5% loss. As soon as they added any iron pyrite, it jumped to a 95% loss. So that was pretty shockingly large. What was I thinking of? Oh, the direct electrowinning. While you're here, Jean-Francois, if you know enough electrochemistry, if you have a solution with a number of ions in it, particularly gold, silver, and base metal ions, and you throw a voltage between your plates, will the gold plate out first, followed by the silver, then followed by the base metals, assuming you've got enough voltage to plate them all? Okay. So, because that appears to be what's happening with Jeff up in Butte there. The deposits that first start, they look like gold to me. And then it starts getting thicker. He gets like half-inch thick deposits on his setup, but I haven't seen the setup. I don't know what he's doing. For all I know, he's plating iron at that point, because I think there's an iron vessel involved at some point. But I gave him a little nitric acid to dissolve his electrolytic debris in to see what's left over. And I'm still working to get him to don't get excited, don't get in a rush, do everything small first. You know, don't use up all your sample, don't use up all your chemicals, just a little bit, test it on a very small scale, test tube size stuff first. You know, little 100 mil beaker and a gram or so in there first. Really important, people. If you don't know what you're doing, small stuff first. And make sure you got good ventilation, because things can get radical. Secondary containment plus good ventilation. What is that?
Jean-Francois says, I'm too rusty on electrochemistry. It will plate according to the electronegativity potential.
Yeah, I figured something like that was going on, but the first thing that plates out seems to be something that looks real much like gold electrolytic debris to me. So, anyhow, I need to get over there and actually take a look at that.
Jean-Francois said that's why you refine in series.
Yeah. So, anyhow, we will take a look at his stuff in the next couple of weeks, probably. Did the doctor's office ever call you, little one?
No, they
Wow.
didn't.
Hopefully they'll
She
call you
said
tomorrow.
they'd said she sent a message over through my patient portal thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah, because we're coming down to the wire here, and how we cannot go to Billings right now.
yeah. He sees patients in Bozeman, which is a lot closer. But yeah, that's something I need to look at and see what's going on. I mean, I need to see in person. He's not incredibly good at precisely describing things verbally.
Hi,
So I
Red
need to
Wayne.
look at it.
He's
Hey,
also
Redwood.
not good at following directions.
I told you, he gets excited. Yep. It's something that is very common, but you've got to fight it. Don't get excited. Don't get in a rush. Try and measure things. And I'm not real good at measuring stuff, but I do. Let's say, for example, I know exactly how many grams of film that came from. But when I'm just doing an initial test, I usually don't measure things with great precision. It's just like, does it work? Yeah, okay, fine.
I
Now I'll
measure
start
everything.
measuring.
I weigh everything.
I know,
measure
you'd weigh
everything.
the air in the lab if you could.
Yeah, I would. Remember, I'm the one that wanted to attach a scrubber and a bubbler and everything to that furnace from day one because I didn't want to take any chances.
Yeah.
But oh no.
Anyhow, so let's say that's what I can think of at the moment. The temperatures here are they're not that bad. I mean, I think it got up to 50 yesterday or something. There's supposed to be some snow over the next couple of days. The mill, apparently the snow on top of the pad and the pond liners melted in the last couple of weeks, and then it refroze. But the level in the pond, pregnant pond itself, did not go up, so I don't think there's a problem. It appears to be a good idea on your pad and pond liners to put a new one on just before the winter shutdown so that it does a good job of keeping the snow from getting into your circuit. Oh, let's see. Can't think of anything else right off the bat. We still haven't heard anything on the Department of Interior regulatory stuff, have we?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So don't know what's going on there. There's just a crap load of stuff going on. But the things that concern us are going to tend to be, secondary or tertiary stuff, not the big stuff.
Yeah, if you see anything at all, you should consider yourself lucky.
Yeah. So I say we shall see what we shall see. But
Jean-Francois said it was minus 10°C last week. This weekend they got plus 13°C in Montreal, and today it's plus 3. Yeah, all kinds of weird weather this year. Just saying.
by the way, with reference to your government wanting to join the European Union and stuff, what does the average Canadian, in your opinion, think of the hoorah going on down here south of the, what is it, 49th parallel? I think.
Yeah, it's the 49th.
It's quite the shenanigans we got here. But as I say, it's way too early to see how it's all going to turn out. But it continues to get rambunctious. The anti-administration forces are getting more and more intense, and some of them are getting more prone to violence. There's been a lot of swatting attempts last week and things like this, so be aware. Keep your wits about you and your head on a swivel. things are getting more polarized, more intense. So we shall see how that works out in terms of the economy, the dollar, and social calmness, that sort of thing. So that can have significant effects on the prices of the metals and what you can do also. Oh, snap, crack, pop. I do like this fire brick compared to the other stuff. But yeah, Brian, if you notice, those heating elements are going to pull out of that roof of that tabletop.
Brian says gold spot. Give me a second here. Oh boy. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do 4 things at once as usual. No, not that one, stupid. Go away. Jeez. Working on it.
Hey, Adventures.
Hi, Adventures. Okay, gold broke 3,000. 3,080 cents. $3.80. Yeah.
People can't see the hand signals when you're over there. Stick them like this.
Kodak says there's only one way. It's my way. Never deal with that thinking. Yeah. Platinum went up $2 to 1,002. Palladium went up $3 to 956, and rhodium is holding flat at $4,950. What else is new?
Okay, Adventures. What you missed, we did a lot of talking about the kiln rebuild I was doing. I have a tabletop kiln. That's the brand name. It's, I don't know, 4 years old, something like that. Been around for a while. It's been rebuilt. This is the first really full rebuild on it, but we've made new heating elements. We can take Kanthal wire and a dowel and make our own little heating elements and save about 95% on the price. But this is, I gave a detailed explanation, but the video that I put up this week on rebuilding the kiln, I am going to add the synopsis of this information to basically that video. I'll recompile everything, and then I'm going to pull that video down and put another video up so that you can get the information. If you have a tabletop brand kiln, this will be very useful. If you don't, I would strongly suggest you check out the Vevor brand, Vevor brand, which is like $350 for something that looks very similar, whereas the tabletop was running like $600 or $650. Okay, so if you're looking for a small kiln, the Vevor and the tabletop are the only ones I know of in the 110 volt range here. It's got to be pretty small to get the temperatures you need. Gold melts at 1980, so we need 1990. And due to voltage drop and stuff, I wound up with a heating element, 17 feet of 18 gauge Kanthal wire. And that was drawing 12.19 amps and dropping the voltage to 114 at the plug-in that the kiln was being plugged into. So that's what all that's about. I'll have a synopsis on the new video, but the tabletop kiln, in my opinion, is reasonably well designed for a light duty kiln that's going to be used intermittently. But if you're going to use it in the harsh environments, I mean the atmospheres that you generate, assaying and such, and refining metals, and the amount of time it's staying at heat, etc., yeah, it beats it up. So I had to come up with a way to make it tougher and replace those elements. This would be like the 5th element we've put in the darn thing. we're just rough on them. But that's what I have no opinion on the V4 kiln at this point. I've never seen one, never had a chance to take a look at it. All I know is it's about $300 cheaper than the tabletop. That's all I know. V4 appears to be, from all the different things they make, it's Chinese, but it seems to be a mid-grade power tool sort of company. They seem to be reasonably good, but not the best, most durable, the toughest, things like that. But it's not hobbyist quality either, to my knowledge. It's more like, what a professional would get for something he doesn't do too much.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, the primary use is probably something like using with those precious metal clays that you can get now. And the precious metal clays, I believe, melt at lower temperatures and are far easier to work with than real metal.
Well, the V4
than typical metal.
There's a lot of stuff, heat treating knives and stuff like that. There's a lot of things you can use these small kilns for. The problem is with 110 volts, you only got about 1400 watts to work with, and that only heats a fairly small area, like about a 6-inch cube. That's about all you can get to that temperature.
Kiln element. Use larger wire, longer winding to reach the same resistance. The element will be stronger and the energy dissipation per unit length will be lower, so longer life.
Yeah, makes sense. So I'm not a real expert in many things.
And it should be noted, the goddess will once again make very clear to the universe at large that the goddess wants a gas kiln. The goddess does not like electric kilns, period.
Well, they are.
The goddess wants gas.
They're easy to control.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what the Vasella is. I'm pretty sure it's 220 volts. We're probably going to be taking it out to Lawrence because he's got 220 volts easily available because he's got serious welders over there. So he's got all that 220 volt stuff wired into outlets. So it shouldn't be too hard to hook it up over there. And I'm going to test that ferric chloride steel wool conversion on that little sample I showed you guys earlier to see what happens. Because that I really, really want to know. This stuff here has also been like triple rinsed in hot water, as in boiling hot water practically. Another thing that Dave gave us was a new little stirrer hot plate thingy. It's about 3 times the weight of the one we have. It feels a lot stronger built. Oh, there's another thing that he gave us some which we're not going to be using anytime soon. But they're little glass tubes. They're about this long. They're much smaller.
Wave says, make a Mount Baker mining and metals kiln. It looks cheap and hot. Well, if he's got the kind that is a top opening, I don't want one.
Yeah, he's got the standard cylindrical gas-fired thing. It'll work.
No top-mounted things.
Anyhow, they're about this long. They're kind of sealed at one end. At the other end, there's a little bulge blown in the side, and they look really weird. It's like, okay, so the ends are closed. It's got a little bulge in the side. What the hell do you do with that thing? Well, they're also filled with a vacuum. Does anyone know what a little glass tube like that with a bulge blown in the side and filled with a vacuum is used for? Let's see if anyone knows this one.
Show them one.
I put them all out at the Beluga today. Yeah, I didn't think to save one. But anyhow, anyone got an idea what those are used for? Because it's kind of cool and not... I was surprised the first time I saw it. Any guesses, anybody?
A burette.
Nope.
Is what Brian said.
No, it's got no calibrations, nothing. It's just a plain small not real small, but it's, I don't know.
Jean-Francois says, oh, if you have welders, try carbon arc discharge kiln. I think there are YouTube videos on that. It melts platinum easily and will volatilize low melt temperature metals.
Okay.
Brian says, for sucking up a sample.
Yes, it's for, you put it in like molten silver or gold before you pour your bar. You know, you got this stuff in the crucible. You put it in a holder, you stick it in there, that little blown out part on the side, the little bubble, it's thinner, and so it melts through, and when it does, it sucks that liquid metal up into the tube. I'm not sure exactly what it's made of, but it can handle the thermal shock. And then you take it out and you cool it down, and you now have a sample of your melt.
Okay.
It's really cool. It works really well. That way you don't have to drill your bars or nothing. You know, you wind up with a sample about this long, you can just cut it in chunks if you want. Yep, but that's exactly what it's for. It's strange, you don't think glass would handle the shock of being plunged into molten gold, but whatever this stuff is, it can handle it. It's hilarious. Never would have expected it. You just plunge it in and you just take it over there and throw it in water. And that's it. Let's see, anything else? Anyone got any questions at this point? Questions, comments on my ugliness? I might be quartz, Jean-Francois. In order to take a tube and stick it directly into molten gold, it's got to be something pretty special. You know, I don't think anything normal would handle it. I don't even think borosilicate would. But I don't know. I think that I'm not that knowledgeable, but whatever it is, it's pretty interesting to watch. I've seen it done. But yeah. You just wouldn't think glass would handle it, but apparently they know how to do it. Anything else going on that I can think of?
Adventure says, what about oxygen and acetylene forge?
If you're using acetylene, you're using some real expensive fuel. An oxymethane forge or an oxypropane is pretty hot. You know, hot enough for anything that we're going to be using. Generally, to heat a kiln up to the temperatures you need to melt silver and gold, you can use a propane air burner. It will achieve the temperatures you need, and it's a lot cheaper. Acetylene's pretty darn expensive compared to propane, and so that's and air is a lot cheaper than oxygen. I have no clue, Jean-Francois. I just don't know who the heck thought of it. It's like one of those things you wouldn't have expected. You know, hey, let's just take a vacuum-filled glass tube and stick it in the liquid metal to see what it's made out of. Go figure. But it works. I say most people just use propane air. If you're going to run a gas furnace, that's usually the way you go, unless it's a big stationary furnace, in which case it could be natural gas air. But that can easily achieve the temperatures you need for what we're doing for assaying, for smelting, stuff like that, for ordinary stuff. You start getting into more exotic stuff, platinum groups, things like that. Now it gets ridiculous.
I need to go to the
I
bathroom.
mean, Alex was talking to us last week. The place he's at right now, they weld iridium, and at, I think it was 200 amps, the TIG takes 15 seconds to generate a puddle. It's, I don't, melting point of God knows what, But that when you start getting into some weird stuff like platinum group, okay, now you might get oxygen acetylene stuff. Oxyacetylene torches work well too if you're doing what they call a scorification assay, where you just take a little scorification dish and heat your sample with a torch and everything. The negative there is it's a pretty small sample. It's very good if you're like melting down, stuff like this. You can do that. You know?
You can do big scorification samples if you have big scorifiers.
Yeah, you could. But anyhow,
We talked about that.
I say a torch assay is a thing. And for that, the oxyacetylene works good. I know when I was, trying to just melt some stuff and over there at Lauren's, and the furnace wasn't getting up to the temperature we needed, he just took out his torch. Yep. Worked real good. What's his name? Jeff Williams once made a good video on building a top loading furnace. Looked pretty well done.
Yeah, somebody would use that propane tank furnace idea and build one that lays on its side. That's a front loader.
I'm not sure, Jean-Francois. Hydrogen generally has a pretty high temperature that it burns at when you got enough oxygen. But I really don't know. I know for some reason I'm thinking their melting temperature is like 3,600 Fahrenheit or some god-awful thing. Whereas gold is only at 1,980 Fahrenheit. I think steel's 2,400 Fahrenheit, something like that. Yeah. Depends on what you got to do, and then also what may contaminate whatever it is you're dealing with. Yeah, but you have to. It's got to be controlled in the right temperature too. Although, believe it or not, when you're doing certain assaying and you want to keep a reducing environment, you take a little block of wood and put it on top of your charge so that it keeps a blanket of carbon dioxide gas on top of there.
Hi, everybody.
I must admit, I like my little pointer here. It's kind of cool. I gotta go to the restroom for a second.
He'll be right back. Hi, Jean-Francois. Hi, everybody. And yeah, induction. I've looked at induction things. I wouldn't mind having an induction thing hanging around for just melting metal that already exists so I can pour it into a new form. I have seen a lot of people doing that online, and they're really freaking cool for that. But for my ordinary everyday things, what I want is a front opening gas furnace that has a viewing window so I can actually see what's going on. That would be nice. It's not necessary to see what's going on, but it certainly would be nice to see what's going on. I mean, just saying. That would be cool. There are various spurious rumors running around that egg prices are going down. They are in some places. But the goddess's tinfoil hat is supposed to be being refurbished by Dude. Dude has not done jack squat about this, okay? So you can talk to him about why my tinfoil hat still looks like crap and why he has not made ears that work properly for my tinfoil hat. So it does not look like crap. You can talk to him about that. There are rumors that egg prices are coming down. Egg prices are not currently coming down here. This does not surprise me. There are rumors gas prices are coming down. Gas prices are not coming down here either. That doesn't surprise me either. Many things take longer to come down here than they do elsewhere. That does not mean one should not continue stocking up on eggs. Speaking of stocking up on eggs, would you believe we decided to go walking before I got sick at Safeway? Albertsons, actually, but Albertsons is Safeway, and we all know this. We decided to go walking there because, you can only walk Walmart so many freaking times, and we have to do minimum 3,000 steps a day. Yeah, you need to try a lot of stores, okay? So we go ahead to ye old Albertsons, a place I never ever shop at because the prices are too high, even with the card. And lo and behold, there were a whole bunch of dozen egg cartons from Lucerne, size large, that were half price because they were almost at expiration. $3.10 a carton. So yeah, the goddess grabbed 4. The goddess would have grabbed more than 4 except we didn't have room in the fridge. Which led to an interesting discussion online because, of course, most idiots in the world seem to believe that if you eat something even one day past an expiration date, even if it's been frozen or kept refrigerated, you're probably going to die instantly and in a horrifyingly agonizing manner. For your information, by the time eggs actually get to your grocery store, they've already been under cold, deep refrigeration for a couple of months, sometimes longer. And the expiration date on that carton does not mean really all that much in the grand scheme of things. I have eaten eggs that were 3 months beyond the carton's expiration date. When my grandmother had chickens, we stored eggs in hay in the root cellar all winter long, the eggs that we didn't water glass or dehydrate. Unwashed, stored in straw, in a root cellar for 9 freaking months, and they didn't go bad, okay? So if you do see eggs on discount because it's close to end of sale, buy them, and if you're really worried, go ahead and either scramble them up and freeze them in little ice cubes, or hard boil them and make deviled eggs, or eat them, okay? And yes, Jean-Francois, if I could have poultry at all, I would have all different varieties of poultry. My problem with quails is the eggs are too darn small, okay? You have to eat quite a few quail eggs to get the same amount of protein that you get in a large chicken egg. But I do like quail. And yes, quail are yummy. Quail tastes very good. I hear him making noises with tin foil right now. I doubt this is going to be very effective. The goddess is saying press X for doubt in this case. I've only been waiting months to get an upgraded brass deflector bow and decent ears and a refurbishment of the tinfoil hat.
Been busy.
Yep. Oh well. It should be noted, being busy is no excuse for allowing deterioration of the tinfoil hat. At any rate, that is where we are in egg world. I actually It was the oddest thing at Albertsons. There was a whole lot of food, and I mean we're talking frozen food items, canned good items, eggs, a few pieces of meat that were still hideously overpriced, even at 50% off.
You want the matte side up or the shiny side up?
Shiny. Seriously, dude. There were a whole lot of things that were on clearance because they were toward the end of day of sale. Now, recently, the goddess has noticed this is also happening at ye old Walmart, you know. Walmart, of late, has had a whole lot of meat that's been marked down, though not the 50% off, for last day of sale. This is in part because Walmart has done raise their prices as high as friggin' Safeway. But there seems to be genuine price resistance going on here in Helena when it comes to rising meat prices. Because even at Winco a year ago, you almost never saw 50% off or discount or clearanced out meat that was last day of sale and discounted. Now, we're seeing meat that is last day of sale and discounted, and a fairly decent variety of it every time we go. But it's not the half price things that it used to be. It's now maybe 25% off, maybe 30% off, and it coincidentally works out to just about what the non-sale price was that people didn't want to pay about 6 to 9 months ago. So these are signs of price resistance. Because, like, how often have you seen frozen food at 50% off? Because it's at the end of its day of sale. Very uncommon. You don't normally see canned goods at 50% off because they're right at expiration date. Very uncommon. We're seeing more price resistance. Price resistance leads to these things, like the frozen food I saw was, of all things, Totino's pizza roll type stuff. I saw pizza rolls. I saw corn dogs on 50% off. Now, Jeff, I have seen that too. I have seen things marked down to something that is above the lower priced item right next to it, which was rather ridiculous, okay? But it is interesting to note, the other thing that's showing up at Walmart is 50% off rotisserie birds. Walmart never used to have leftover rotisserie chicken or fried chicken after they shut down their oven, around mid-late afternoon. There was never any leftover rotisserie or fried chicken at Walmart. If you saw one, you better grab it and thank all the gods of sales, because it almost never happened. In our entire odyssey, our trip last year, across the country and back, I found discount chicken at Walmart twice, okay? Lately, every time I have gone to our Walmart, there's been 50% off birds. A couple of them, sometimes 3 of them, sometimes 4 of them, and 25 to 35% off fried chicken. And yes, wage slave, that is always my question too. How much do they throw away? Because this is something that's being discussed on the dumpster diving sub on Reddit. Up until the last couple of years, dumpster divers, a nice, small, closely knit community. You didn't have too many interlopers coming in. It was pretty much, in most places, a pretty much self-policing community. And a whole lot of stores were not destroying things when they were being thrown away. Where we are now, the dumpster diving community is very, very upset online because, first of all, you have all these Instagram bullshit people that are coming and making huge messes at dumpsters and filming everything and putting it out there online and, see how brilliant I am for dumpster diving, which ruins it for everybody. The other thing that they're seeing a whole lot more of is a whole lot more businesses are deliberately destroying everything before it gets thrown away, as in slashing the cushions on office chairs and throwing bleach on them, and deliberately breaking office chairs, breaking furniture, deliberately breaking candles, like the Bed Bath & Beyond when they throw out the holiday candles, all that kind of thing. And stores are deliberately throwing bleach and other chemicals on food when it's thrown out, and putting nice big posts up on their dumpster that says, stealing this trash is theft. You will be prosecuted for theft if you go in our dumpster, with no trespassing signs posted, by the way. And signs up that say, this food has been deliberately soaked with bleach and other chemicals. That's just disgusting. The goddess is very, very pissed off with this trend, okay? The goddess is already pissed off that because of the leftists, the psychotic left in Helena, dumpster diving is illegal here. This makes me very angry, okay? When we went to the waste transfer station to throw out the mattress and stuff, it was very, very depressing, because right there inside this nice big building where people back up to throw trash, there was all kinds of useful stuff. They could have been put to one side in an area with a sign over it that says green store, take what you want, like they do in New England. But no, instead they have nice big signs up that say, this area is under surveillance, you're not allowed to take shit.
I don't remember the word shit.
You know exactly what they mean. But anyway, the hat is back. It does not have an upgraded brass deflector bow, so I'm pissed. But, I'll just have to wait, I suppose. Continue to stack eggs. Continue to stack meat. We have a real problem going on now, because now they're trying to sneak in those mRNA vaccines in our cattle the way they snuck them in with the pork. So you gotta watch out for that shit happening, because RFK Jr. has not gotten around yet to saying, no, that's not a good idea. I wish he would. That should have been a day 2 thing, okay?
They just announced today that the generally recognized as safe is going to be out the window.
The GRAS should. Yeah, they do, Shaggy. And that is the funny thing about it. What annoys me is if you don't have a no trespassing sign, and that dumpster is on public property, and it is not locked, don't destroy the shit. Put stuff that people might want right next to the damn dumpster, and I can 100% guarantee it will disappear without people trashing your property in very, very short order, which will save you money.
Well, you have to have somebody sort it.
Money.
Yeah, but you have to have somebody
If you have
sort
a whole bunch of fixtures, they're going to be taken, so just leave them out of the dumpster. You don't have to sort them.
It depends on what it is you got, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is a little bit crazy, Jeff. I can see that, But like, I grew up in New England where you had a dump permit that you bought, for a nominal fee, and then you paid a reduced nominal pound fee when you went to drop things off. And right outside the landfill, right outside the dump, was the green store area. So if you had anything even remotely useful, like a half a gallon of paint or something, you took it to the green store area because it meant you were paying less weight going in there to dump your actual trash. Yeah, there is, Jean-Francois, and we need a lot more of it. But nobody's talking about, wait a minute, if there's so much bad shit happening to humans with this, why are they still wanting to use it in veterinary vaccines?
Yeah.
That's the question. Because, the human side is one side, and the other side. As they should, Jeff. But that's the thing. It is the goddess finds it immoral. I don't like people pulling that crap. And don't sit there and tell me when you abandon something in your public dumpster, you have thrown it out because you don't want it. You put it in the dumpster with the full knowledge that a magical trash fairy is going to come along and charge you money to make it go away. Don't try to tell me I'm stealing when I take it. That's just bullshit. Besides the fact, if you actually put it outside the dumpster, you put a little area that says, this stuff, take it if you want it, it would disappear like that. Your dumpster would be left alone, and you'd end up paying less to have your trash removed. I mean, this is a win-win-win thing, you know. But the problem is people are getting bizarre. We're getting to that point in the economic and psychological meltdown where people are beginning to get really squirrely, okay? People are getting seriously squirrely now, folks. You may notice there's a whole bunch of swatting going on X. We hear about it a lot because a whole lot of the people on X are being swatted. And they're not just going after the big guys. As somebody pointed out, I think it was Tim Pool that pointed out, but we see it pointed out on X every day. If it was just the big guys like Gunther Eagleman and Cat Turd, etc., and Tim Pool, then little guys like me could feel safe and say, well, it's only happening to big accounts, you know. It's not. It's true terrorism, because what we're seeing now, the random vandalizing and setting cars on fire of absolutely normal citizens, or the random swatting of small accounts on X, the random acts of violence against ordinary people is the serious terrorism starting. The big terrorism, like the Karens screaming on their TikTok videos, do it, do it, do it, I just want you to effing do it. That stuff is astroturfing to get the large movement going. What is true terrorism right now, and what is far more concerning, is that they're beginning to do shit to ordinary people. That's not good.
I also heard, I forget where it was on, somebody was mentioning that there appears to be a right-wing group that's advocating violence and stuff, but he's like, why are they worried about what the last administration did? I mean, his assumption was it looks to him like false flag stuff.
Well, of course.
So be aware.
Tons of it
Yeah.
around. It's ridiculous these days. Well, yeah, John, we're surrounded by psychotic people, okay?
Yeah, John. First of all, you have to be taught how to think. Secondly of all, you have to be taught how to measure.
But anyway, I will let him take this back. Remember, silver and gold are still on sale, folks, but that's not going to be the case all that much longer. Back up the truck, grab the physical stuff, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I guess it's an hour and a half, so probably time for a recap and everything, and then call it a week. I'm enjoying getting back in the swing of things. You know, I'm feeling good, lots of energy, and so should get a lot of interesting stuff done here starting now. But by varying the length of the heating element in the kiln, we got various behaviors out of the kiln, and depending upon your power supply depends on what you're going to get out of the kiln. But I would recommend 17-foot long, 18 gauge Canthal for a tabletop kiln will give you reasonably good performance. The reline material, the lining material in a tabletop is really, really soft. And these insulating fire bricks from Simmons store seem to work pretty good. You can carve them. They're pretty rigid, yet pretty easy to carve. Just a vibrating tool works fine. And I would go with 1.5 inches standing vertically on the sides. And the back wall is going to go all the way from bottom to top. The side walls are going to be a little shorter, so you can lay the brick across the top of the thing. This is a top view, by the way. And then between the side walls is where you'd have your inner, your bottom one with the thermocouple sitting right there. So by doing that, you're going to need 4 bricks, 1.5 inches thick, and then 2 bricks, 1.25 inches thick, one for the top and one for the bottom. And that's basically it. It also allows you to cut your channels for your heating elements in a full 1/2 inch into the brick without a problem. So that should make things a little easier in other ways. And that's about it. If you don't have a furnace yet, you might want to check out the Vibor and compare it to the tabletop and go for there. What size are the bricks? Well, it's a standard size for them. You'll get out some kind of measuring device here. And it is 9 3/16 long by 4.5 precisely wide. And these are 1.125 inches here. They come in all different things. You get up to 2 inch thick, and they go down to, I think, 1/2 inch thick. Okay?
If the wire is only 10 degrees higher than gold melting point, doesn't that take forever to melt? Is what Jeff was asking.
Pardon what?
He says, if the wire is only 10 degrees higher than gold melting point, I think he's saying if things only get 10 degrees higher than gold melting point, doesn't that take forever to melt? No, it doesn't. I don't know why.
Everything in the furnace is at this temperature. It's just a box.
Wave slave, they start to cycle when they get to the right temperature. Whatever temperature you got it programmed for.
Yeah, the tabletop has a programmed thing where you can program whatever temperature you want it to cycle at. And so it's pretty controllable. I'm pretty sure the Vibor does the same, but again, I have not researched it thoroughly. All I know is it's a lot cheaper. The other thing you could probably do, Jean-Francois, is that fireplace caulk, grout. I think they call it grout, but it's in a tube. It actually heats. It cooks to a white, but you could, fill it in the corners. On the bottom of the kiln, I would take the bottom piece, lay it in there, and have just a little bit around the edge, and then fill all those corners with bone ash around the replaceable bottom plate, and that way it'll really protect everything, build that up a little bit so it's a little higher than that replaceable plate, So, say it seems to work pretty good, and I think the 1.5 inch walls are going to give you more insulation. It's going to make things fit a lot simpler. All these little pieces are now eliminated, so that makes it a lot better. And that would just be a big improvement. Eva was feeling pretty poorly middle of the week. She's getting better. I'm feeling real good. And want to thank Dave Vanderwall over there in Butte for giving us a lot of interesting stuff. cupels and beakers and all kinds of lab stuff that he ran into. So appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else got any questions or anything at this point? And say, everything seems to be going well here. The weather is pretty mild, but it's going to be another month and a half where we can fire up the mill again. So we got a lot of things that we got some research done on Wednesday, but we got to correlate it. Even found a lot of field notes from a mine that will correlate possibly with stuff that we're interested in.
Yeah, I haven't seen Honey Bunny tonight. We're kind of having a decent,
Did you see Culture there?
Culture! Good Lord! Hi!
You gotta show him your hat.
Dude, Culture! Hi! I haven't had a chance to watch your videos in forever because I've been sick and all kinds of ridiculous crap has been going on. But anyway, everybody, Culture Currency has put out some amazing videos lately, and right now he's doing one that I want to go watch where he's talking about doing day trading with silver. It's an interesting little experiment he's running. He also ran an experiment whereby he was buying the same quantity, the same amount of money was being spent on generic silver versus bullion and sovereign
Lean back.
coinage,
You're getting too
et
close to the
cetera.
camera.
So, and he kept records as to how the pieces he bought appreciated over time. So this is a dude that you really want to watch for silver because he's looking at it both from the perspective of, well, from multiple perspectives. On one hand, as a stacker, you know, we want to just have more silver because you got to have more silver. Let's face it, you can never have enough silver, ever, ever. But on the other hand, also, what types of silver to buy that will function as scratching the collector itch and also as a good investment. So his channel is really freaking cool. And I really want to get over there and find out how this whole day trading thing was working because I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. I got to get over there and watch that video. But anyway, I am so glad to see you. Hi. Nice of you to stop by. Bear, you can take over again now that I've talked to Culture. And y'all go check out his channel. Dude has some beautiful, beautiful silver. Pretty stuff he's got.
Anyhow, so I think that pretty well winds it up for this week. And I should have a bunch of silver beads and some gold beads and stuff like that by next week. But I've still got a little bit of tweaking on that furnace. That lower heating element kind of popped loose, so I got to get that put back in place and some
What else
supports
is new?
for it. Yeah, nothing new. Absolutely. Alrighty, well, I think we're going to call it a week then. Thanks everybody for showing up. And
And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email him or drop a comment on any of his videos or write them down so you can ask them next week.
let's say I'll get the more extensive video with the modifications to the plan that I found once I actually put the fire to it. Huh. Interesting, Jean-Francois. Yeah, we usually buy from our local coin shop here. They're nice people, and they give us some pretty good rates. And we can pay cash. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Thanks everybody for showing up. And keep your head on the
Yeah,
swivel. These are interesting times.
That is exactly why you don't deal with Kitco. Kitco is ridiculous, okay? They're beyond ridiculous.
Alrighty. So, happy prospecting and keep it safe out there. And you can